Coming up on Network Africa. 2 people reportedly killed as police fire shots and tear gas on thousands of Kenyans out to receive the body of late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Several protesters arrested after Douala clashes over alleged election fraud in Cameroon. Sudan's military leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi hold talks in Cairo on the war in Sudan and the Nile crisis. Begin the program in Kenya, where at least 2 people are said to have died after police fired shots and tear gas to disperse a large crowd that had gathered for the public viewing ceremony of late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Well, security officers were forced to swing into action after a section of mourners turned unruly ahead of the late Raila's body viewing ceremony. Tension flared when some attendees began throwing twigs towards the VIPs in protest over delays in allowing them to view the body. Well, the crowd, which had escorted a motorcade carrying the casket from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, became impatient after hours of waiting. The joint teams of General Service Unit, GSU, and the anti-riot police swiftly responded, firing tear gas canisters to restore order. But thousands of people are paying their last respects to the former Prime Minister who died on Wednesday in India. And the viewing is underway as thousands of mourners have gathered at the Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi to view the body. The viewing ceremony was led by President William Ruto, who arrived alongside his widow, Mama Ida Odinga, and members of the Odinga family. After the official viewing by national leaders and the family, members of the public have begun filing past the casket now to pay their last respects to the man fondly remembered as Kenya's opposition icon and statesman. His body arrived earlier today at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, where operations had to be briefly suspended after large crowds of mourners carrying twigs and palm branches breached security. Authorities said mourners gained access to restricted areas, prompting a precautionary closure to allow security teams to restore order and ensure safety. Well, later on, operations were restored following the shutdown, which lasted about 2 hours. Because of the unexpectedly huge crowds, the public viewing ceremony for his body had to be moved to Nairobi's Moi International Sports Center rather than inside the Parliament building. Well, a state funeral will be held on Friday, and on Saturday his body will be transported to Kisumu, his political stronghold, a city in western Kenya on the shores of Lake Victoria. Well, after news of his death broke on Wednesday, hundreds of Kenyans poured into the streets of Nairobi, holding tree branches and chanting in grief in Nairobi on Wednesday. Footage showed crowds running through the streets, some waving branches, a traditional gesture of mourning in the country, while others shouted Odinga's name, breaking down in tears. The 80-year-old politician and opposition leader and former prime minister was known affectionately as Baba Father. According to reports, he collapsed while walking with his sister, daughter, and personal doctor at the Ayurvedic clinic in El Kalum district in India. President William Ruto has declared 7 days of national mourning and announced that Raila Odinga will be honored with a state funeral.
Totally, we we are sad. We are, as you can see, we are not good. We have lost our hero, the one and only. We cannot even replace with. There is no one we can replace with Raila.
I'm here celebrating the life of Raila Odinga. At the same time, mourning his death.
Well, joining us now for more on this is Kenyan journalist Cyrus Sumbati. Cyrus has been our eyes and ears on the ground at the Kasarani Stadium, from the airport, from the Jomo Kenyatta Airport to the Kasarani Stadium. He joins us from Nairobi. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We've seen large crowds in Nairobi since the news broke out. And tell us a bit more about how, the incident played out today at the stadium for the public viewing ceremony.
Well, thank you for me the show. As you said, it's very clear from the beginning, it was a chaotic kind of scene from the airport coming down to the Mombasa highway, where the body was driven through 30 kilometers straight to the stadium where the viewing was to take place earlier on, but now it had to be delayed for hours because of the chaos that was witnessed. Initially, the plan was that the viewing was to take place in Parliament because of the stature, but now that was moved because of the crowd was huge, as it was not expected to be that way. At the stadium, the chaos again went on because the police and the security officers were unable to control the situation there, so they had to use bullets and tear gas to disperse the mob from the inside the stadium to be able to organize for the viewing to start, which started around 4 p.m.
And from the pictures we're seeing, at the stadium, the police, security forces dispersing the crowds with tear gas. How are Kenyans really processing the loss of Raila Odinga? I imagine with mixed emotions because, we've heard of them, they're grieving, even as they were also angry that the viewing ceremony didn't start on time.
Well, Raila himself, as you know, has been an icon of democracy in Kenya. This has been accompanied by chaos, the drama, trouble, all those. You can say the little because there are protests which accompanies politics all along since he started joining the politics. Raila has been an icon of democracy in Kenya, not only in Kenya, even the region is widely respected. His death actually, people, as you put very clearly, it shocked many because it came as a surprise. And as we speak now, everyone is still mourning the death of Raila as we speak now. Because no one is believing that he's dead, but many believe that his time had come because of ages of 8 years.
And we've seen President William Ruto, the family, and even former President Uhuru Kenyatta, at that viewing ceremony. President Ruto has declared a week of national mourning, and we understand, his family said he wanted to be buried as soon as possible, within 72 hours of his passing. What are we to expect, tomorrow, which we've heard that will be the state funeral for the late politician?
Well, the military has issued a directive that by 8 a.m. the morning, 8:45 a.m., everyone must be seated at the stadium, that's near National Stadium, for the program to start. The President William Ruto will be at the stadium at 9 a.m. so that the funeral can now proceed. They are expecting dignitaries from the country and out of the country. We understand even from Nigeria itself, former President Olusegun Obasanjo may be here because he was a close friend of Mr. Raila. And then from there, the body will proceed from the stadium to his home, Nairobi home, where it will have an overnight stay. And then on Saturday, it will be flown to Kisumu, his stronghold, for another overnight stay, or rather a public viewing in his home. Then an overnight stay, then on Sunday, it will be burial.
All right then, and Raila Odinga wasn't just a politician. He was seen by many as a symbol of struggle and hope from the people you've spoken with, from ordinary Kenyans. How do they describe, the legacy he now leaves behind?
Well, Raila is the cause of what we have now, because in terms of democracy and the new constitution which we have in the country right now, because he is the one who fought for this constitution which guarantees women things, including freedom and a Bill of Rights. He's the one who championed for so many rights that we have in the country. He's an icon of democracy, as you said, Eligi. He stood for the majority, the masses in the country. He stood for the truth. He stood for everything that you may associate with a life. So his death is a loss to many, not only in Kenya, but the region at large. He was highly and widely respected.
All right then, Cyrus Ombati, Kenyan journalist, thank you. I believe we would be catching up with you tomorrow, even for more details, even for the state funeral. Thank you once again.
Thank you, family. The show will be there.
Let's move on to other stories now. The former Congolese president, Joseph Kabila, has announced a movement to, quote, save his country following a meeting with other opposition leaders in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The ex-leader convened a conclave of prominent Congolese opposition figures in Nairobi, including former Prime Minister Augustin Pomyo, who was sentenced in May to 10 years of hard labor. According to a statement, they have announced a Save the DRC movement, denouncing President Felix Tshisekedi's what they call his inability to respond to multiple crises, calling on the people to stand up and resist dictatorship. Meanwhile, Congolese government spokesperson Patrick Muyaya has dismissed this, calling it a non-event and a meeting of fugitives and convicts. Kenya's foreign ministry, in the meantime, is yet to make any comment on the meeting taking place on their soil. Mr. Kabila was recently sentenced to death by the DRC government for war crimes and treason, rejecting all charges as arbitrary. However, he did not appear in court to defend himself. We're now in Cameroon, where several people have been arrested in Douala city following clashes with the police over alleged electoral fraud by Elections Cameroon officials, ELECAM officials. Well, this comes after residents reported witnessing what they considered attempts to manipulate ballots, sparking outrage across the country. Senior Divisional Officer of Wuri, Syriac Mvogo, insists that Cameroon is governed by the rule of law and that authorities are working to ensure the Constitutional Council can publish official results of the October 12 election. Earlier, the leader of Cameroon's opposition Front for National Salvation, Issa Chiroma, declared himself the winner of the October 12 elections, challenging the 43-year rule of President Paul Biya. In the meantime, President Biya has not publicly commented on Mr. Chiroma's claim. Well, the ruling Cameroon's People's Democratic Movement has, however, dismissed the opposition leader's assertion, stating that he lacks access to full polling station data. The United States says it remains committed to advancing reliable energy access worldwide. Acting Assistant Secretary for the Office of International Affairs, Tommy Joyce, noted that excessive regulation has hindered nuclear energy development, urging financial institutions to support funding for nuclear projects. He was speaking at the 4th G20 Energy Transitions Working Group and Energy Transitions Ministerial Meeting in Durban, South Africa. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, has more.
Executive orders.
U.S. President Donald Trump has signed 4 executive orders aimed at reviving America's long-awaited nuclear energy agenda. However, supporters see the initiative as a way to reset U.S. leadership in global nuclear technology, countering growing influence from countries like China and Russia. U.S. Acting Assistant Secretary for the Office of International Affairs, William Joyce, says the plan focuses on modernizing nuclear regulations, reactor testing, and the country's industrial base.
Countries, by the way, are already lining up to fill the order book for the first small modular reactors coming off the manufacturing line. And we do not want Africa and the global South to miss out on this opportunity. At home in the United States, Secretary Wright has emphasized the urgent need to add 100 gigawatts of firm baseload power capacity to the U.S. grid.
In South Africa, some members of parliament have welcomed Joyce's remarks, saying they align with calls to simplify policies that could unlock investment in the sector.
When the US now has taken a decision to say they're going the nuclear route, they've convinced the World Bank and they want to work with African countries, particularly South Africa, to revive the nuclear discussion and interest. We do welcome it and we want to see the changes. And we want to see World Bank put its mouth where its money is. They have to support the nuclear build programs and finance it for Africa growth and development. And we want transformation in our country.
So today it looks like that is coming to reality and to fruition, and people are appreciating the technical aspects of nuclear, and that nuclear can be used for peaceful purposes, and it is a very powerful source of energy, and it is affordable and can be financed.
For decades, nuclear power has provided a reliable low-carbon energy source, yet investment and innovation in the sector have stagnated.
We feel very strongly that, as I said earlier, this is not the start, this is not an event. This G20 is the start of a conversation that needs to carry on, particularly within the African context. So we've got some legacy projects that we're driving that we will be implementing, and this conversation is going to continue over the next few years as we try and implement the changes that we're making, particularly around access and then the clean cooking imperative.
Delegates here are calling for financial institutions to fund the just energy transition. But of course, some delegates here are saying that the issues around nuclear has been hampered by legislation. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this event as we continue to shape conversations around the just energy transition, energy poverty, and of course, creating decent jobs. From Durban in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the program. Honoring the legacy of standing tall and free, Burkina Faso commemorates 38 years since the assassination of Thomas Sankara. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has met with the chairman of Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, in Cairo, and it's to discuss efforts to end the war in Sudan and the opposition to Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. In a statement, presidential spokesperson Ambassador El-Shenawi said the talks addressed developments on the ground in Sudan, the international and regional efforts aimed at ending the war and restoring stability in the country. The statement also addressed the latest developments regarding the Nile and the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam project, with both sides reaffirming their firm rejection of any unilateral measures against international law. President al-Sisi had emphasized that Egypt will not stand idle by in the face of the approach adopted by Ethiopia, stressing that the country will take all necessary measures to safeguard its interests and water security. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni is underscoring the impact of global modernization on developing economies, noting that the global industrial growth has significantly influenced commodity prices in his country. He made these remarks at the midterm ministerial meeting of the Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, in Kampala, which aims to review progress and strengthen future cooperation of over 120 member states. This year's theme is deepening cooperation for shared global affluence, with Uganda currently holding the chairmanship of the forum for the 2024 to 2027 term. Founded in 1961, the Non-Aligned Movement focuses on promoting peace, sovereignty, and cooperation among developing nations.
The human race has been here for 4.5 million years. Most of that time, the human beings were living only in Africa. So I normally like to joke with friends that all of you here are former Africans, all of you. Because you all started here, but migrated out of Africa to populate other parts of the world. And that's why we here in Uganda, we regard the development of science and technology as the primer of human change, of societies, of changes in society. But when China started transforming, modernizing, and India and Vietnam and other Asian countries, and even Africa to some extent, when they started modernizing, the price of steel went from $200 per ton to $900. So the transformation in China, in Asia, in other parts of the world, directly affected us here. The price of copper went up, the price of steel went up, the price of cement went up a bit because of the changes that were taking place in other parts of the world.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and other world leaders have resolved to work together to provide robust policies and solutions to the security crisis in West Africa. The Minister of Defense, Mohammed Abubakar, gave this update while speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the ongoing Akaba process heads of state and government-level meeting taking place in Rome, Italy. He said the leaders have agreed on the multinational cooperation to fight terrorism and the evolving security challenges in West Africa.
There is quite good attendance in that meeting. Also, some West African head of states were there. The major takeaway is the fact that there is a regional multinational cooperation in fighting against terrorism. All nations believe that if one country is sick because of terrorism, in no time it will affect the other country. So the countries around the world believe that together we have to work and fight terrorism. So it's a very good, robust meeting that discuss especially the terrorism in West Africa, and the countries resolve really to work together and provide both policy and solutions for multinational terrorism fight. And I believe it is very, very good for our country being the leader in West Africa and Sahel. You see, this meeting really cut down bureaucracy, and leaders meet freely and openly and have very frank and open discussions on ways and means to fight terrorism in the world. And the focus now is West Africa, and I believe Nigeria stands to gain a lot from the cooperations that this meeting brings about. I believe, looking at the last 10 years, there has been a lot of support, a lot of collaboration between nations in the fight against terrorism.
Burkina Faso is marking the 38th anniversary of the assassination of its former president, Thomas Sankara, who served from 1983 until his murder in 1987. The observance was led by the current leadership, Ibrahim Traore, who views himself as a continuation of Sankara's revolutionary legacy. Mr. Sankara, regarded as the father of the Burkinabe Revolution and a prominent figure in Pan-Africanism, was honored in the commemoration attended by incumbent President Captain Ibrahim Traore alongside with Ouagadougou government officials, activists, former comrades in arms, young leaders, and delegations from across Africa and beyond. For many citizens, Mr. Sankara remains an enduring source of inspiration, and they claim his ideals of justice, integrity, and sovereignty and solidarity continue to shape thoughts across Burkina Faso and across Africa's borders. Mr. Sankara was assassinated in a coup led by his close comrade Blaise Compaoré, who subsequently ruled for 27 years and systematically reversed Sankara's policies. In April 2022, a Burkina Faso court sentenced Comrade Compaoré in absentia to life imprisonment for his role in Thomas Sankara's murder. And as we end the program today, here's our interesting fact about the continent. Did you know that South Africa is the only country with 3 capitals? The country is a pretty unique one, as it has 3 capital cities instead of 1 like you would expect. It has Pretoria, the administrative capital, which handles the government's day-to-day activities, Cape Town, the legislative capital where laws get made, and it also has Bloemfontein, the judicial capital, which takes care of the courts. This setup spreads power out across the country and helps make sure different regions and groups have a say. And that's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.